Hi, I'm Tony Joe from Remax Camosun, Victoria's real estate agent. Thanks very much for tuning in. This is one of a series of educational clips that we have here on the website to help you with your real estate purchase or sale. Hopefully some of the tips and advice that we provide can help you get the best results possible. I just want to remind you that if you have any questions about real estate, whether purchasing or selling, feel free to give me a call. I look forward to speaking with you. Any question I can answer for you, and if I can't, frankly, I'll just find the answer. Anyways, this particular video is talking about market timing. So one of the things that comes up often with people who are thinking about real estate is, when's the best time for real estate? When is the best time for real estate? If you go to the bookstore and you look at all of the self-help books about real estate, I think one of the common things that you'll find is that authors or people have the opinion that the spring is the best time for real estate. And I just want to tell you that in every real estate transaction, there is a buyer and there is a seller. There are these two parties necessary in order to be a real estate transaction. And I have to say that there will never be a point in time, or in history for that matter, that is good for both buyers and sellers together. In reality, the market timing is only good for buyers at one point or sellers at one point. Again, it never happens where they're good for both at the same time. So what I want to tell you about is what happens out there in the marketplace. Here is our calendar. So we've got January, February, March, April, May, and all this kind of stuff. Typically what happens during the calendar year is real estate sales goes pretty slow at the very beginning. Obviously you're right off of Christmas, you've had other priorities. And what always happens is the market picks up around that springtime that we talked about. It starts ramping up, ends up peaking somewhere around early summer, so May or June. And then what ends up happening is it comes back down to the cycle and it more or less meets where it was before. So when you look at this graph here, you can say, yeah, spring or summer is a good time as far as number of sales are concerned. Well, what also ends up happening is you've got the sales, but you also have inventory. So what happens with inventory? Well, this is typically what happens with inventory. It looks something like this. And what you can see there is everyone come spring decides to put their property on the marketplace, meaning that we always have a peak in inventory somewhere around, again, May, June, July. What that means with high inventory is that buyers have a lot more things to choose from. So in other words, as a seller, you've got much more competition. So think about this for just a moment. When there's a lot of inventory, is that a good or bad time to sell? And the fact is, it's not a great time to sell, not great at all, because what ends up happening is you've got a lot more competition. The buyers who would normally look at your house and have maybe 3 or 5 other houses to look at in the same marketplace, the same market segment, will at this time of year end up having 15 or 20 properties to look at. And what ends up happening is you end up just being one of a pack of homes. Whereas if you look down here, typically early in the year or in the fall or at the end of the year, inventory levels are very, very low. And what ends up happening is that people have fewer choices. Now, the other thing I have to tell you about, as you can see by the sales graph here, even though they are very similar, what ends up happening is this shows you that in the higher peak time of inventory, there is a greater gap between the number of sales and the number of listings, meaning the absorption rate is not that high. It's much higher, again, earlier in the year or later on the year here. What we do find is inventory level is lower. Again, thinking about, for instance, November, December, and the number of sales may be lower as well too, but one of the differences is the buyers who are looking at around December or Christmas time typically are not people who want to buy. You know, you think about this. When Christmas time is on your minds, do you really want to go out there and start looking at real estate, especially when the weather is not great? You probably don't. What we do find though is that the people who are shopping in around that Christmas season are not people who necessarily want to buy, but often people who have to buy. This may be as a result of a sale that may have occurred in their own house, maybe late in the summertime. or it could be relocation, or it could be a number of factors that are causing them to want to be out there looking at properties over Christmas time. As a result, they are more motivated buyers. If you are a seller at that time, you want this person, and the best thing is this time of year is when you have less competition. So from a seller standpoint, these are great times to consider being on the marketplace. From a buyer standpoint, because I haven't talked about that yet, you really want to be buying around here, because this is really when the inventory is high and you'll have the pick of the litter. You'll have choices. You'll be able to decide. Oh, the other thing too is you'll get fewer instances of these multiple offers or bidding wars, because there are more properties to choose from, quite simply. It's a matter of inventory and supply and demand. Anyways, I hope this little segment here helped you out. Again, if you have any questions about real estate, whether it be buying or selling, or would just like to have a confidential chat, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Please also do check out the rest of our videos as well too. Thanks very much.